Hi, everyone. Thanks again for joining us for another episode of the Daily BizLink. Jane Cebrynski is back, and today we're talking about knowing when to pull through and when to pull back. So, Jane, thanks so much for being here.
Thanks so much for having me, Lindsay. It's always a pleasure and an honor. So, give me a 10 moment.
My 10 moment happened on the professional front this side. It was a major milestone within our organization. We have been planning for this big combination that happened with our Denver office. It felt so good to finally announce that to the world this Tuesday, which that was a 10 because, I knew I made it to the finish line with success. And then, we had some wonderful national coverage as it relates to that. So that made that 10 like a 20 for me. It was so awesome. So very excited to get that one through the finish line, and the awesome group of individuals that we're now going to be working with. I'm also equally excited about that.
That's awesome. Well, so that's kind of a great introduction into the conversation that we're going to have. I love when we're always in sync like this because you don't know what I'm going to talk about ahead of time. And I love that. But, in light of the Olympics and a lot of what we've seen both with the highs and the lows. I mean, the Olympics are, such a great example and teacher for, being champions for ourselves and going for things and facing difficulties. But August is also National Wellness Month. And the intention behind that is for people to become really aware of self-care and managing stress and anxiety. And so I thought, this begs a really interesting question of, when do I know, or what are my tools for helping me pull through really, really difficult times and challenging times? Because let's face it, it's really easy for us to quit, especially in the life athlete world, which is where I coach. And, when though, is it really necessary for me to pull back because it's healthier for me? And so we're not only seeing that play out on the world stage, but this happens in our everyday lives. We're constantly faced with challenges and obstacles and hard times. And so what do we do with it?
Yeah, I mean, our topics, it's funny how it seems to perfectly align with things that are happening in my world. I mean, I can just share from my personal experience and what's been going on with our organization over the course of the last week. We had to pull through and get some major projects to the finish line to help with providing a really successful onboarding process for our new team members. And I was also down one person on my team. So I currently have a vacant spot I'm looking to fill. So we were short-staffed. We had even more work than usual because of the circumstances. And that was our team's instance in which we just had to pull through, but we had a finish line in sight. And now we're reevaluating and thinking about, okay, how can we pull back? How do we start taking care of ourselves? Because I certainly don't want my team members to burn out.
Yeah, it's really interesting sometimes how it is just this constant back and forth method. And, I coach individuals who want to be champions for them, in their lives for themselves. And I coach in competitive greatness. And John Wooden defines competitive greatness as being your best when your best is required. Now, that doesn't mean that your best that particular day may be 100%, but you may need to dig deep and figure out, okay, how can I give more than I think I'm capable of in this given moment? And then you can't necessarily sustain that maybe over a long period of time. So it's knowing when to pull back. And so this is when we really got to look at ourselves and really ask ourselves some questions to know whether or not we can be pushing through or we need to maybe be pulling back.
So Jane, how would we go about doing this? Do you have any tips there?
Well, I think first and foremost, and again, this may be impacting us on a personal level. You might be going through a really difficult time personally, and just getting out of bed is a sense of accomplishment for you. But I really feel like, the first thing you can do is ask yourself the question, how do I be competitively great for myself in this moment? And then really start to ask yourself some empowering questions to say, okay, what is my greater purpose here? Do I have a greater purpose that's going to help pull me through? Am I, getting support from a team of people? Can I call upon my support team to say, okay, I'm really struggling today, just need some help, getting me to go. Or you might need those same support people to say, hey, listen, I can tell you are like burning the candle at both ends. you don't take some time off, you're going to really make yourself sick. And those are fair questions to be asking ourselves too. And then really watch your film and notice a time when you pulled yourself through something that was super challenging and really difficult. Because when we do that, we're also building resilience muscles, and how can we move from struggle to a place of strength? Thoughts, comments?
Yeah, I think it's really helpful that you walk them through a couple different instances and how to approach those situations. So if we just offered them one specific challenge for the week, Jane, what would it be?
Well, I kind of came up with three things, the three P's actually. So first, acknowledge your purpose, identify your purpose. And again, your purpose could be for that day, or it could serve a bigger role. And then, but for, give yourself a pep talk. So think of, again, watching your film, look at some times when you were successful pulling through, what were your winning strategies, and, get rid of the critic, get rid of the judge that's, in your brain, and just give yourself a pep talk and know whether or not this is really good for your health, whether you move forward or you pull back a little bit, and then have a plan. So if you're going to pull forward, say, okay, I'm going to like crank this out for the next hour, or I'm going to give it my all till the end of the day, and then give myself a celebration or reward. If you're pulling back, say, okay, I'm pulling back. That means I'm going to go take a nap. I'm going to rest and recover for, 2 hours, and then I'm going to get back in the game, but have some sort of, game plan. So give yourself a pep talk, make sure you identify your purpose, and then give yourself a plan.
Great. Well, as we look to wrap up today's conversation, Jane, is there anything else you'd like to leave our audience with?
No, just go out and be competitively great for yourself and do it for you, and just be for you.
Great. All right, Jane. Well, thanks so much for joining us for another episode of the Daily BizLink.
Thanks so much, Lindsay. Have a great weekend.